Hey everyone, Erik here, and welcome back to Classic Month 2017. Today I'm reviewing Shada, Shada, and Shada in preparation for Shada. The plot revolves around Skagra, a sort of mad scientist, if you like, pursuing a book of ancient Gallifreyan law, which will lead him to the Time Lord's forgotten prison planet, Shada. At the same time, the Doctor and Romana discover that an old friend of the Doctor's, Professor Chronotis, has brought the same book from Gallifrey to his place of retirement in Cambridge. This leads to a scramble to procure the book and return it to Gallifrey before Skagra descends upon Shada to reawaken one of the most feared criminals of Time Lord society. This is a really good premise, both in concept and execution, as it puts the Doctor almost at an immediate disadvantage, which forces him to try and keep up with Skagra as his plan reaches completion and the universe becomes ever more doomed. Having read the book first, I was somewhat expecting a little more to be conveyed in a non-verbal manner. For example, there is a great section devoted to detailing Skagra's distaste for his colleagues in the research center, and later one for the people of Earth, ultimately describing it as a, quote, 2 out of 10 planet, bad but not the worst he'd ever seen, unquote. And that sort of thing doesn't really seem to be conveyed on screen. Of course, I realize that in prose, more detail and explanation can be gotten away with, but even so much as a change in facial expression, a mutter to himself, or a bit of dialogue would have gotten across his thoughts sufficiently well. In the TV version, he just seems to be there, going to his destination rather than examining his environment like was implied in the book. That said, however, Skagra has a wonderfully ominous presence to him, one that just about rivals Roger Delgado as the Master. For example, when he enters Professor Chronotis' room, his face alone gives off an impression of how much trouble the old man is in. Moving on to Chronotis, lovely character he is. I find myself thinking of him sort of like if the first Doctor retired and just sat around reading and making tea. This is just the sort of friendly old man that I would love to just sit down and have a chat with over a free afternoon, similar to Professor Eldred in Seeds of Death. Spoilers upcoming, skip to the timestamp on screen to avoid them. When I first read the book, I was completely blindsided when it was revealed he was actually Salyaven, the criminal everyone was fearing. As Romana says at the end, he seemed like such a nice old man. Jumping from supporting character to the antagonist's army, the Krogs, while being quite interesting-looking creatures, I suppose, they aren't exactly what I would have thought of given their description. I'd imagined a more stacked boulder-type creature, as opposed to a more jagged rock version of the Gel Guards from the Three Doctors. Giving a quick mention to 8th Doctor Shada here, the Krogs there aren't much better, in voice or flash-animated appearance. Their voices are very generic Dr. Claw-type voices, and they look like stereotypical evil monsters with perpetually angry eyes. Since I'm on the topic of 8th Doctor Shada, you're not exactly missing much if you don't listen to it, or watch it in the case of the webcast version. It's essentially the same version as the unbroadcast one starring Tom Baker, except with Paul McGann in his place, no bridging narration, and an explanation at the start as to why it's now the 8th Doctor taking on Skagra instead of his previous self. Speaking of the bridging narration, some of it really should have been more detailed. The first bit was so brief, it gave me the idea to try and take the piss out of it for a standalone video. Interesting distinction between the book and the other two versions, more spoilers. In the book, it's Chris who spills the beans that Chronotis is Salyaven, which was unplanned for by the Doctor. In the TV version, and by extension the audio version, what was to be gained by the Professor confessing it instead? If anything, it only helped to push Skagra's plan forward, so I think Book Chronotis had the right idea to keep that a secret. As a final note, the Doctor's end-line about his reputation preceding his future self is quite interesting to ponder, especially with the new series context of the War Doctor compared to his successors. I would love for something of that sort to happen in the future at some point, even if just for that bit of classic-era teasing. In conclusion, Shada, while perhaps not being the best story of the classic series, is still a good watch which I could recommend to just about any Whovian. I give the unbroadcast television version 7 invisible spaceships out of 10, the audio version 6 lumps out of 10, no sugars, and the book 9 stolen rooms out of 10. Next time on the finale of Classic Month 2017, it's a mid-season McCoy adventure with a one-off villain and a lot of pink. See you then. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Scarosian Filmmakers YouTube channel.